When it comes to manifesting your purpose, manifesting the things that you desire, there are three things that you must consider: mind, body, and spirit. Then, as you go deeper into understanding how to use those three pivotal tools, you understand that within the mind, there are other layers, other aspects, other elements that you have to really go deep into and study in order for you to master your mind. Now, one of those key, most important tools that you want to understand and master is your subconscious mind. Now, as we go deep into learning how to program and tap into your own inner power, we're going to really focus in on the subconscious mind. So let's get into what the subconscious mind is. Well, there are multiple layers of the mind. There is the conscious mind. There is the subconscious mind. There is the unconscious mind. There is also the superconscious mind. Now, if we start from the lowest level of the mind or lowest frequency of the mind, you really start from the unconscious, right? The unconscious is really the part of you that gets into the primal, the very basic of your nature as a human being living in this human experience. Now, when you get into recognizing, okay, there are elements that is required, say for survival, then you also understand that within the unconscious is the ego. The ego is housed in this unconscious mind that you have. And the ego is a extension or part of the extreme other side of the spectrum of consciousness. Consciousness is who you absolutely 100% the core of who you are. That is your consciousness. That is the part of you that connects with the divine essence, right? With God. You are the divine and individual spark of that essence. All right. This is your consciousness. This is that oneness with God that we talk about, that we really want to connect deep with. Now, in actuality, there is nothing that isn't God, right? Because God created all things. But as we talk about creating this connection, this deeper connection with God and the God within us, we have to look at consciousness and your consciousness in particular. But we have to also recognize the elements of who you are and how to master those elements, those tools, in order for you to properly align yourself with your purpose, the things that you desire, and essentially being the creator of your reality. So we go from recognize your consciousness, the purest aspect of who you are, and then the other spectrum of that, which is the ego, right? Now, the ego is required as you are living this physical experience. The ego is housed in the unconscious mind. Again, that is the part of you that is focused on the primal instincts, survival, recognizing and identifying harm, things of that nature, right? And the ego is more of a personality that is developed, and it is housed again in the unconscious mind. Now, then you go into the subconscious mind, right? Which is another level. And subconscious mind is really the place that houses all of your habits, right? Behaviors, your thoughts. And this is what we're going to focus on today. Then above that, you have your conscious mind. And the conscious mind is the part of your mind that you are always actively using and involved with. The conscious mind essentially is your analytical mind. That is the mind that is constantly looking, observing, analyzing, figuring out, judging, coming to a conclusion, right? Looking for patterns, things of that nature. And depending on how you've trained your conscious mind, you're going to either look for danger, you're going to look for negativity, or you're going to look for positivity. You're going to look for opportunity, right? Things that you can do and use in alignment with your purpose and your desire. Okay. So essentially, it goes like this: conscious mind, as far as function and practicality and what you use and have access to, it goes conscious mind. That's the thing that's most superficial, that you can obviously understand, you could feel, you can use, right? And then going deeper, subconscious mind, right? Which is all your habits, Also, the subconscious mind is responsible for your bodily functions, your heartbeat, you breathing, right? The cells moving through your body, right? All of your bodily functions, your nervous system, things of that nature. And then you go deeper into your unconscious mind. Now, your unconscious mind also stores, say, trauma, repressed memories, things of that nature. Okay. Again, the ego is housed essentially in the unconscious mind, but the ego can also influence all other aspects of your mind, okay, except for consciousness. You see, that is the core, that is your divine spark. But the ego is the other aspect of that divine spark. You can look at almost like the ego as the opposite of the light, right? You are divine light, radiance, right? And the ego is then created to create the contrast of all of it that is, okay? Everything has its quote unquote opposite, polar opposite, right? I don't say opposite, I usually say contrast. I usually say the other side of the spectrum because essentially the two things are connected, right? They are essentially one, just different perspectives or side of that oneness, right? That essence. So when you think about consciousness, the ego must exist. And that's why the ego was created, especially in this physical realm, where things like the opposites and contrast absolutely really show up, right? It must be, it must exist, it must have. You must have the two in order to experience the oneness. And so you think about consciousness, you must have an ego. That ego is housed in the unconscious, right? You have the subconscious, which essentially houses all your experiences. It remembers and stores all of your feelings, your thoughts, right? Your patterns, your habits. And then you have your conscious mind, which is analyzing everything. So now let's get into the power of the subconscious mind, right? Because this is one of those things, and you have to understand throughout the course of this workshop, you're going to see and understand why the subconscious mind is so important and why we're not focused in more on the conscious mind. Though the conscious mind is very important too, because the conscious mind is what essentially influences the subconscious mind. That's what we're going to get into later on. But ultimately, the power of the subconscious mind is that it essentially governs your daily life, okay? It governs everything from your breathing, right? Your autonomic responses, your nervous system, your immune system, your habits. So when you are living your life, you're essentially living your life mostly from the subconscious. This is why you need to understand how important it is to recognize the power of the subconscious, because it is essentially, if you can really think about and look at like what is who you are, like what defines who you are is what most people would say is your thoughts, your emotions, your actions. And so if the subconscious mind essentially governs your thoughts, right? It governs your body, right? It governs your habits. Essentially, the subconscious mind is who you are. Really, it's not who you are, it's really but how you show up. Okay? How you show up in reality, how you show up in this physical reality, how you show up in this world, how you show up for yourself and how you show up for everybody else or according to everybody else, how you even show up in the universe. So you're now starting to get the significance of how powerful the subconscious mind is. Okay. So as you connect and understand the power of the subconscious mind, then you begin to understand that its role is pivotal in intuition, right? Creativity and emotions. Now, emotions are very important because emotions are energy in motion. Emotions is the driving force that actually propels you, that pushes you, or even pulls you to do certain things. Without the emotions, you're not likely to do things. And so emotions are very important. Now, when you are in a space where you, though, identify with negative emotions, what you're likely to do is unproductive actions, right? Very um, actions that are going to actually cause you to procrastinate, cause you to be distracted, to do the things or not do things, right? Which is still doing a thing. And you decide, you want to simply just lay on the couch and watch Netflix when your purpose and your desire is to get more healthy, be more fit, and you decide to not do that and you're sitting on the couch, then you're doing something, right? It's just not in alignment with what it is that you desire to be. So you have to ultimately recognize that the subconscious mind is essentially the part of you that has established a routine, has established a reflex, right? Established a habit, a pattern. When we look at the universe is grounded in patterns, right? This is how we grow to understand things, is by recognizing, okay, this is a pattern, or seeing that, oh, this is a sign, this is a symbol, this is a signal, right? And that is because we've used our conscious mind to analyze and collect the data. And then based on that information and the emotional trigger, right? The emotion experienced at the time, that then is stored in your subconscious as a habit, as a reflex, as a trigger or a reaction, right? Something that just instantly happens. And so as you go down this understanding, you start to see also that when we tap into what it means to tap into the subconscious or to understand the subconscious, you realize that the subconscious is nonlinear, right? Meaning that you can tap into the subconscious multiple ways and directions, right? A lot of times, we identify with simply just using our conscious mind to tap into the subconscious. And that is the best way to actually take ownership of programming your subconscious. That is something we'll get into later. But right now, let's continue to break down subconscious and the relationship with all other aspects of who you are and your minds. So, though going from the consciousness, your conscious mind to your subconscious mind is a very lunar way of approaching it, right? Many times, though, with the ego, with the unconscious mind involved, even the superconscious mind, which is the part of your mind that is closer to your pure consciousness or the divinity, right? Or grand consciousness, which I like to call God. Those things can absolutely influence the subconscious mind. Those things can absolutely begin to structure how you show up and react, right? How you actually exchange or interact with the universe around you. Your job, though, is simply identifying it. Now, you may not be able to make sense of it, right? Because certain times when we're on the spiritual journey, we tap into spiritual gifts that really don't make sense when it comes to articulating it in language, explaining it. It's just simply a matter of recognizing, okay, this is just who I am, and this is how I connect with my divinity, and this is how I communicate with the universe. You see, so as you continue on this journey, you'll start to learn how the different layers of your mind and even the gifts that you have begin to break down your essential relationship with all that is. Okay. And understand that this is going to be unique for you. And you cannot necessarily compare your experience with another. And so when we break down the subconscious mind, we're going to try to break it down as generally as possible. But ultimately, it's important to recognize that the process of tapping into the subconscious is not one that is simply like, cookie cutter. This is the way it's done with everybody. But for the purposes of teaching and supporting you and understanding it, I'm going to give you examples that generally anybody can apply along the process of going over this subconscious mind. So recognize also, this is very important, the subconscious mind lacks, right, the ability to do critical thinking. That's not what the subconscious mind does. Your conscious mind does the critical thinking, right? Your subconscious mind receives it, okay? It receives it and it takes in anything and everything that is fed to it. So you have to understand the importance of making sure the right things are fed to it. Now, with the subconscious mind, essentially everything that you experience, everything that you do, everything that happens, right, in your reality is received in your subconscious mind. We can actually tap into these memories. It's like an infinite database. The issue is we often don't find value in being able to do that, and we often don't practice really tapping into our mind enough to be able to do that. But some people are great at remembering things, right? Remembering really great details since they were a little child, right? And some people are just not good at it. They're not naturally gifted at it, but we can all cultivate that talent. But essentially, the point of this is to say that everything that happens to you is stored in your subconscious. This is why you have to be extremely mindful about your surroundings, about your environment, about the things that you watch, the people you hang out with and talk with, the people you have intimate relationships with, because all of those exchanges and things that are happening are being received and absorbed in your subconscious. Okay. And then, depending on the emotional intensity of particular things, it will be stored in your subconscious, not just simply as a memory, but as a trigger, but as a program, meaning that you will respond to certain things based on that singular experience that was highly charged with emotional energy and intensity. You see, so you have to be cautious, right? But not fearful about the experiences of life, because what also matters is how you perceive the experience that you had. You see, when we were children, we didn't have the emotional intelligence and also the mental ability and maturity to change and view things from the perspective or the lens of opportunity, of abundance, of recognizing that this is a lesson, attaching or learning from the experience. All we had as children was this is scary, right? This is hurtful. This person is mean, right? This is dangerous, right? I am scared. And so, what happened because you were highly emotionally charged in that moment as a child and you weren't able to really identify the difference between, say, fear versus danger, you simply experience that fear and store that into your subconscious mind as danger. So now every time you see a small spider, because you was a child, you thought that was dangerous, right? But as an adult, you recognize, okay, that particular kind of spider is not dangerous. As long as I don't get near the spider, it's not dangerous. So therefore, I don't have to be fearful or scared. But it has been stored in your subconscious already. So you have to really address that fear. Is it valid? Is it true? Is it real? You see, and you can go down the list of all the things that show up for you where it's just not logical or rational to have these reactions to these things because as an adult, you understand, oh, this isn't something that is really practical. It doesn't serve me. And it's not even based on reality. You see? So your job is to now, right? Yes, reprogram those old programs that don't serve you. But more importantly, recognize that every situation that you put yourself in is going to be received by the subconscious. So you have to be mindful about what you let, what you expose to your subconscious. Basically, what environment you put yourself in, what people you talk to, what books you read, what movies you watch, what TV shows you watch, what music you listen to. Okay. All of those things cultivates your actions. Remember, the subconscious is really about how you show up in this reality, how you show up for yourself, how you show up for the universe. And if you are not being mindful about what the subconscious is receiving, then you're going to be out of control when it comes to managing how you show up. All right. So it's all about recognizing your power to simply Be mindful about where you place yourself, what you consume, what you do, who you speak to. Okay. And then understanding that the more you put yourself in particular situations with highly emotional charge, then that is going to be more likely and strongly programmed into your subconscious. Okay. So, yeah, maybe if you do something once, yes, it'll be stored in your subconscious, but it won't become a program. It won't become a habit. But the more you do something, the more it is likely to be a habit. So that's like when they say, in order to make something a habit, you got to do it for 30 days, 90 days, whatever. The point of that is, okay, now we figured out a system of the more I do this thing, then the more it's likely to become a way of life for me. So doing something for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, even a whole entire year, especially a year. I know for myself, if I do something for a year, it is almost just as difficult to stop doing it than it is to have started doing it. You see, because it is just a part of your mental DNA structure, habit, pattern, how you show up. And so this is how powerful the subconscious is. Your subconscious mind essentially is the mechanism, right? The autopilot for your life. And all you have to do is program that computer. Your mind is a computer. It is a problem-solving solution. Now, I don't want you to just focus on problem, but it's a solution-based machine, right? It is based on your desire, what it is that you desire and want. If you are smart and wise, knowledgeable about directing your mind toward that thing, it will not only create ways of getting it, but it will actually continue and be committed and focused on doing what it takes to actually get that thing. You just simply have to understand how to direct it. And that is what the subconscious mind is about. So as we go deeper into understanding the subconscious mind, what I really want you to do is focus on thinking about how you've already programmed your subconscious. What's in it? Are these things serving you or are they not? This is not about judging yourself or shaming yourself or feeling guilt. This is simply about just acknowledging, okay, this doesn't serve me, this does. How can I reprogram this thing that no longer serves me? Okay. And then all you have to do is think about how you can reprogram that program, right? How can you reframe it? How can you use it to your benefit even? Okay. Then that begins to break down its power over you to procrastinate, to self-sabotage, to have negative self-talk, what have you. Your job is now to recognize, okay, this pattern, okay, was stored in my subconscious mind when I wasn't able and I didn't have the skills to actually reframe it and think about it in a way to empower me. So now I have to do that now. That's the responsibility you have for yourself now. As adults, we have to go back into our childhood, heal that inner child, communicate with that inner child and say, okay, now is the time. These are the skills. These are the things that we want to focus on. These are the things that are going to empower us. And thus we have to completely be repetitive about that thing, about those thoughts, about those emotions to help us to move forward in creating the thing that you desire. You see, so recognize your power. You still have power, even if you feel like there's a lot of programs in your mind and your subconscious that don't serve you. Trust me, it's not a big deal. It just simply takes effort, but more importantly, it takes consistency. And just like I said before, with the consistency of doing it over and over and over again and then attaching emotions, strong emotions to it, especially positive emotions, then you will eventually program your mind into a machine, into a computer that is completely focused on your desire and your purpose and your personal fulfillment and the self-realization that you are absolutely the creator of your universe. Thank you so much. Feel free to go to drabundant.com, subscribe to my daily newsletter, and get access to this free ebook, The Power Within. Continue to join me on this journey. Peace and abundance always.